The question that has been haunting investigators for more than 6 weeks may have an answer hidden inside something so small, so ordinary, that almost no one thought to consider it at first. Imagine that the single piece of evidence capable of revealing the exact path of a kidnapping was sitting quietly inside the victim's own home the entire time. Imagine that a device no larger than a coin may already contain the digital trail showing exactly where an abducted woman was taken in the moments after she disappeared. And imagine that investigators may already know far more than they have told the public.
For 42 days, one of the most disturbing disappearance cases in recent American memory has remained locked in uncertainty. The case began in the early hours of February 1st when an 84-year-old woman vanished from her residence in Tucson, Arizona. The scene investigators encountered that morning was immediately alarming. Inside the home were signs that something violent had occurred. Blood stains were discovered on the floor. Multiple ransom notes were left behind demanding millions of dollars in cryptocurrency. Security footage from a doorbell camera captured the image of a masked individual approaching the house in the darkness before the disappearance. And then, just as suddenly, that figure vanished into the night, taking the elderly homeowner with them. From the first hours of the investigation, federal authorities treated the incident as a high-priority abduction. Agents from multiple federal and local agencies formed a joint task force. Search teams began combing through neighborhoods and surrounding desert terrain. Surveillance footage from roads and businesses across the Tucson area was collected and reviewed frame by frame. The public was asked to report anything unusual that occurred during the early morning hours of that winter night. Tip lines were opened, and within days, thousands of calls began pouring in. As the days passed, the case grew larger and more complicated. What initially appeared to be a single violent intrusion began to reveal signs of careful preparation. And investigators discovered that someone had attempted to disrupt wireless communication near the property during the time window when the abduction likely occurred. Equipment consistent with signal-blocking technology had reportedly been used to interfere with internet connections and wireless devices in the immediate area. A damaged utility box near the property raised additional questions about whether the suspect had attempted to disable certain systems before entering the home. Despite these troubling details, the investigation encountered an immediate and unexpected obstacle. The one object that normally provides the clearest digital trail in a modern kidnapping was still sitting inside the house. The victim's cell phone had been left behind. In today's world, a phone is more than a communication device. It is a constant location beacon. Smartphones continuously record movement through GPS coordinates, connections to cell towers, and networks of nearby wireless signals. They maintain logs showing when a person travels, which routes they take, which devices are nearby, and which wireless networks they connect to along the way. In countless criminal investigations, that digital record becomes the map investigators follow to locate a missing person. But in this case, that map appeared to end at the front door. When officers first searched the home, the phone was discovered exactly where it had last been used. It had not been taken during the abduction. That detail immediately raised two possibilities. Either the suspect deliberately left it behind to prevent tracking, or the device was overlooked during the chaos of the crime. Regardless of the reason, the result was the same. The most powerful tracking tool investigators normally rely on had remained stationary while the victim disappeared into the darkness. For weeks, that fact complicated nearly every aspect of the search. Without a moving phone, investigators had no immediate digital path showing where the victim might have been taken after leaving the property. The task force was forced to rely on more traditional investigative methods. Detectives analyzed traffic camera footage from highways leading out of the city. They examined vehicle registrations connected to suspicious cars captured on surveillance cameras. Search teams continued scanning rural areas surrounding Tucson. Each day, new tips arrived from members of the public, but none produced a confirmed location. Meanwhile, the ransom notes discovered inside the home added another layer of uncertainty. The messages demanded payment in cryptocurrency, a digital form of money designed to move quickly and anonymously across international borders. The amounts listed in the notes were enormous, escalating across multiple messages left at the scene. Whoever had written them clearly understood how digital currencies operate and how difficult they can be to trace. The use of cryptocurrency in a ransom demand immediately caught the attention of federal investigators who specialize in financial tracking and cybercrime. Blockchain analysts began examining possible transaction patterns linked to wallets mentioned in the notes. Every major exchange was alerted to watch for suspicious activity connected to the case. Yet despite those efforts, no confirmed ransom payment had been detected. The silence from the kidnappers only deepened the mystery. As the investigation entered its second and third weeks, public attention intensified. News outlets across the country began covering the disappearance. Experts debated possible motives behind the crime. Some suggested the abduction was financially motivated. Others believe the suspect might have targeted the victim for personal reasons connected to family or acquaintances. With each passing day, the absence of clear answers only amplified the sense that the case contained pieces investigators had not yet revealed. Behind the scenes, specialists in digital forensics were quietly examining every device recovered from the residence. Computers, tablets, routers, and security systems were all analyzed in an attempt to reconstruct the final hours before the abduction. Investigators searched for unusual network activity, suspicious login-ins, or unfamiliar devices that might have connected to the home systems before the crime. During that process, analysts returned repeatedly to the phone that had been left behind. Even though it had not traveled with the victim, it still contained a detailed record of her digital life. Every connection the device had made in the days leading up to the disappearance was logged inside its operating system. Those records included something investigators began examining more closely: a list of Bluetooth devices paired with the phone. Bluetooth technology is commonly used to connect phones with wireless accessories such as headphones, speakers, watches, and medical devices. Each time a phone pairs with one of these devices, it creates a record of that connection. That record can remain stored for long periods, sometimes revealing patterns of movement or interaction that would otherwise go unnoticed. At first glance, the Bluetooth list on the phone looked unremarkable. Like many people, the victim used several wireless accessories. Some were typical household electronics. Others were small medical devices used daily for health and mobility, but one particular set of devices stood out. They were hearing aids. Small, nearly invisible pieces of technology designed primarily to amplify sound. Devices that most people associate with simple medical assistance rather than digital tracking systems. Yet modern versions of these devices are far more advanced than many realize. And when they connect directly to smartphones, they stream audio from calls and videos, they interact with specialized mobile applications, and most importantly, they communicate continuously with the phone they are paired with. For investigators reviewing the phone's connection history, that realization opened an entirely new line of inquiry. Because while the phone had remained inside the house, those hearing aids might not have. Once investigators recognized the potential of the hearing aids, the case took on a new, almost cinematic dimension. Suddenly, a small pair of devices, objects designed to help someone hear, were no longer merely medical equipment. They had become silent witnesses to an unfolding crime. The implications were staggering. Yet every moment those devices remained powered and paired with the phone could have recorded a digital echo of the victim's movements, a breadcrumb trail leading directly to the suspect. But this opportunity came with its own complications. Layers of technical uncertainty that could either illuminate the case or leave it shrouded in deeper mystery. The first hurdle investigators faced was battery life. Modern hearing aids vary widely in how long they can function without recharging. High-end models can maintain an active connection for 24 hours, while more typical devices might last 16 to 18 hours under continuous use. Considering the abduction occurred in the early hours of February 1st, the question became whether the devices had sufficient charge to record significant portions of the day. If fully powered, he said they might have logged the victim's location for a full morning, afternoon, and evening, potentially capturing hundreds of miles of movement. If the battery failed within just a few hours, the trail would be truncated, possibly showing only the immediate area around the home before going silent. The difference between success and failure could hinge entirely on something as simple as remaining battery power. Even if the hearing aids remained charged, the question of connectivity loomed. For these devices to continue transmitting location data while separated from the phone, they needed to be compatible with a network capable of bridging that gap. Many modern smartphones participate in what is often called a Find My network, an invisible web of millions of devices that can relay location information from nearby Bluetooth-enabled hardware. Yes, if the hearing aids were enrolled in such a system, their signals could theoretically continue to ping back to the phone even after leaving the house, creating a real-time map of the abductor's route. But not all hearing aids are part of this network. Determining the make and model of the victim's devices and confirming whether they possess that capability was a critical early step in the digital forensic process. The complexity did not stop there. Even if the devices were compatible, the investigators still had to extract the data stored on the phone with precision. Modern phones manage enormous quantities of information, and Bluetooth location data is often buried deep within operating system files. Accessing it requires specialized forensic tools capable of unlocking secure storage, navigating proprietary software architecture, and ensuring that no data is accidentally overwritten or deleted. In some cases, a passcode or biometric authentication is required, adding another layer of difficulty. Forensic specialists also had to account for the possibility that normal phone operations, automatic memory management, software updates, or accidental disconnections might have corrupted or erased critical records. Every variable had the potential to obscure the trail or render it incomplete. Even as investigators concentrated on extracting every possible byte of data from the hearing aids and phone, the scope of the investigation began to expand in unexpected directions. A new factor emerged that introduced both intrigue and caution: a purported eyewitness claim. Just the source came forward asserting that the victim had been seen south of the United States border in Mexico in the company of individuals thought to be her abductors. According to reports, the eyewitness insisted on receiving cryptocurrency, a single Bitcoin valued at roughly $70,000, as a prerequisite for disclosing the precise location. The demand immediately raised questions about credibility, motive, and potential manipulation. Law enforcement officials are trained to treat tips with care, particularly those involving financial conditions. Yet the possibility, however small, that the information could be genuine could not be ignored. This development complicated the narrative in multiple ways. On one hand, it showed the eyewitness claim aligned with theories that had been quietly circulating among investigators and former federal agents that the abduction may not have been an isolated local crime, but rather a sophisticated operation with potential cross-spur elements. The mere suggestion that the victim might have been transported across state lines and potentially international borders amplified both the urgency and complexity of the investigation. On the other hand, the demand for cryptocurrency cast a shadow of uncertainty. Historically, legitimate witnesses in critical cases provide information freely to law enforcement. The unusual stipulation raised the possibility that the eyewitness might be attempting to exploit the situation financially or even act on behalf of the perpetrators. In tandem with this new tip, investigators revisited other physical and digital clues, seeking connections that might clarify the situation. Evidence collected at the residence, including a damaged utility box and signs of signal interference, suggested a level of technical sophistication consistent with organized criminal activity. The presence of professional-grade Wi-Fi jamming equipment, coupled with the decision to use a walkie-talkie instead of a cellular device, indicated deliberate counter-surveillance measures. These elements, combined with the digital footprint potential offered by the hearing aids, created a dual narrative of high-tech tracking possibilities and equally high-level operational security. Cryptocurrency demands further highlighted the level of sophistication involved. The ransom notes left at the scene referenced multiple wallets and escalating amounts, suggesting detailed knowledge of blockchain transactions. This digital complexity, paired with traditional physical measures such as property surveillance and signal interference, painted a picture of an operation executed by someone with both technical skill and strategic foresight. Investigators had to consider not just the immediate logistics of the abduction, but the broader operational context, including the potential for cross-spur movement and advanced counter-detection methods. Adding another layer to the investigation was the victim's cardiac pacemaker, a device that records physiological data with remarkable precision. While its primary function is to maintain heart rhythm, modern pacemakers can transmit data to remote monitoring systems, which allowing medical professionals to track activity over time. Earlier analysis had confirmed the precise timing of the abduction based on spikes in cardiac activity consistent with extreme stress. But investigators also began considering whether the device could have transmitted additional signals once the victim was outside the home. Coupled with the hearing aids and phone, this suggested a network of interrelated devices capable of capturing a sequence of movement, activity, and physiological response. A kind of digital breadcrumb trail that might reveal the route taken, the stops made, and potentially the final location. As investigators pieced together these elements, a disturbing possibility arose that the abduction was not a random act of violence, but rather a targeted operation executed by individuals with detailed knowledge of the victim's routines, health devices, and household technology. Specialists began to explore the theory that organized criminal groups along the Arizona-Mexico border corridor might have been involved. These groups are known to engage in carefully planned abductions, often demanding cryptocurrency ransoms, transporting victims across borders, and employing sophisticated counter-surveillance techniques. The combination of technical knowledge, operational planning, and the absence of a clear digital trail pointed to the involvement of actors who operate with experience and precision far beyond that of an opportunistic criminal. This scenario gained further plausibility when investigators considered how the digital ecosystem might have been unknowingly left active by the perpetrators. If the hearing aids were still powered and paired with the stationary phone at the residence, They could have silently mapped every movement after the abduction. Each GPS ping, each Bluetooth interaction could have logged the direction of travel, the roads taken, and potential destinations. If, as the eyewitness claimed, the victim had been transported toward Mexico, then the digital trail might already contain evidence supporting that trajectory, even if law enforcement has not disclosed it publicly. The existence of such data would fundamentally alter the investigation, transforming it from a missing person search into a coordinated international pursuit. Experts familiar with organized crime and digital forensics emphasize the unprecedented convergence of factors in this case. A combination of high-tech medical devices, cryptocurrency demands, counter-surveillance equipment, and border proximity created an investigative environment of remarkable complexity. Each factor reinforced the others. Digital evidence might reveal movement patterns, while physical observations suggested operational sophistication. The ransom notes demonstrated technical literacy, while the potential cross-burst sighting demanded international coordination. For law enforcement, this convergence presented both an opportunity and a challenge, requiring careful prioritization of investigative resources and coordination across agencies with different jurisdictions and specialties. Former federal agents monitoring the investigation have publicly suggested that authorities are closer to actionable intelligence than previously indicated. While the public narrative remains cautious, insiders hint that investigators may already possess critical information derived from digital devices, potentially including movement patterns, geographic coordinates, or other location-specific data. The precise nature of this intelligence is not disclosed, but the combination of technical capability and investigative resources suggests that law enforcement is not operating blindly. Despite these promising avenues, investigators remain vigilant regarding the reliability of each lead. The eyewitness demand for payment in cryptocurrency, while potentially significant, also introduces the possibility of false leads designed to misdirect authorities. Law enforcement must balance the urgency of any tip with rigorous verification procedures. Simultaneously, digital forensics teams continue to analyze every device, cross-referencing timestamps, connectivity logs, and network activity to validate hypotheses about movement and location. Every piece of information is weighed carefully with an understanding that a single misstep could compromise both the investigation and potential legal proceedings. The interplay between high-tech tracking and operational security underscores a central tension in this case. On one side is the possibility of a silent, continuous digital record tracing the victim's movements. On the other is a sophisticated abduction strategy designed to avoid detection. Investigators must reconcile these opposing forces, extracting usable evidence from devices that may only offer partial or fragmented data, while contending with the possibility that the perpetrators are actively monitoring or interfering with standard tracking mechanisms. Taken together, these developments reveal a case that is both deeply complex and uniquely modern. Traditional investigative techniques, canvassing neighborhoods, reviewing security footage, analyzing physical evidence, remain essential, but they now operate alongside an unprecedented reliance on consumer medical technology and digital connectivity. Hearing aids, smartphones, and pacemakers are no longer passive tools. They are active participants in the forensic process, capable of revealing paths, timelines, and potentially even destinations previously hidden from investigators. Every new clue, from the potential cross-burst sighting to the cryptocurrency ransom, adds urgency to the work of decoding these devices. Investigators are acutely aware that time is a critical factor. device batteries fade, signals degrade, and memories become less reliable. Each hour brings both risk and possibility. The challenge is immense, but so too is the potential reward. The victim's location, once obscured by darkness and uncertainty, may already exist in digital form, quietly recorded by the very devices the abductors overlooked. Unlocking that information could shift the investigation from months of speculation to concrete steps toward recovery and justice. As the investigation entered its sixth week, the convergence of digital evidence, physical clues, and human intelligence painted a picture that was both promising and unnervingly complex. The small hearing aids, long dismissed as simple medical devices, now stood at the center of a high-stakes forensic operation, potentially holding the key to unlocking the entire case. Every minute of Bluetooth connectivity, every signal pinged through the Find My network, could have logged an intricate map of the victim's journey from the moment of abduction. The phone left behind in the home was no longer just a device. It was a silent sentinel recording every paired movement, quietly charting a path that might extend hundreds of miles, potentially even across international borders. Investigators had to assume that if the abductors were unaware of this technological ecosystem, they might have inadvertently provided a full digital trail leading straight to the victim. The combination of devices, the hearing aids, smartphone, and pacemaker formed a trifecta of potential evidence. While the pacemaker offered precise physiological markers confirming the timing and intensity of the abduction, the hearing aids and phone offered the possibility of tracing location. The integration of these devices created an unprecedented opportunity to reconstruct the sequence of events with a level of detail that previous generations of investigators could only dream of. Every digital footprint could serve as a waypoint, every timestamp a marker of movement, every connection a clue. But the investigators also knew that any number of factors, device malfunction, battery depletion, signal interference, could obscure this data, and making the difference between a complete map and fragmented traces. Meanwhile, the purported eyewitness claim regarding the victim's presence in Mexico added another layer of tension. While law enforcement could not confirm the sighting through physical evidence, the alignment with other digital and logistical indicators made it impossible to dismiss outright. The demand for cryptocurrency raised legitimate skepticism, but it also hinted at a sophisticated understanding of both digital currency and investigative behavior, suggesting the possibility of intentional misdirection or even insider knowledge. Investigators had to weigh the credibility of the tip against the broader evidence, balancing caution with the urgency inherent in a potential cross-border abduction. As of day 42, the digital landscape of this investigation remains both tantalizing and critical. Investigators continue to map, analyze, and interpret signals, timestamps, and physiological markers with the understanding that every moment of digital activity could illuminate the path forward. The reward remains significant, the public alert ongoing, and the resources dedicated to the search unparalleled. Yet, the most important element, the potential resolution, lies within the small, silent devices that have quietly observed every moment of the abduction, patiently recording data that may finally provide the clarity and direction needed to bring this case to its conclusion. The overarching reality is clear. In today's investigative environment, technology is inseparable from strategy. The smallest devices may harbor the largest insights, and meticulous analysis of interconnected digital systems can transform uncertainty into actionable knowledge. If the hearing aids and other devices still retain their historical data, investigators could be holding the roadmap to recovery. Every log, every ping, every interaction contributes to an intricate digital narrative that, once fully decoded, could guide law enforcement directly to the victim. The net is closing. The evidence is forming, and somewhere within this complex web of technology, location, and timing, the answers await.